I'm Katie Couric. Tonight, a new challenge to the president's war strategy, this time from his own party. The Republican plan that could limit the mission of U.S. forces in Iraq. Also tonight, U.S. law enforcement on edge and on alert. Why officials are so concerned there could be a terror attack in this country this summer. A CBS News investigation exposes a scam that could cost you your biggest investment, your home.
They're just no good scamming vultures.
And Assignment America, the ex-con who's helping prisoners get through their stretches with stitches.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hello, everyone. President Bush is pleading for patience for his Iraq strategy, but he is not getting it. In fact, he lost more support today on Capitol Hill. Key support from members of his own party who are now demanding a big change in strategy. Here's our chief White House correspondent, Jim Axelrod.
Two powerful senior Republican senators, John Warner and Richard Lugar, want to require President Bush to present Congress with a plan to start a troop drawdown by the end of the year. Their measure does not require the plan to be executed, only to be devised. The senators say Iraqi progress is lagging.
Well, they have performed reasonably well in the Baghdad operations of recent, but not, I think, up to the full expectations we had in January.
The Warner-Lugar measure also expects the president to present a new resolution authorizing the use of military force in Iraq, since the initial authorization passed in 2002 is, in Lugar's words, obsolete and requires revision. This comes one day after a White House progress report on Iraq that gave satisfactory grades to the security effort, but unsatisfactory marks to the Iraqi government in getting its business done. Mr. Bush said he has confidence in the Iraqi parliament.
Obviously, I want the Iraqi government to understand that we expect there to be reconciliation top down, that we want to see laws passed. I think they've got that message.
Maybe, but today the White House confirmed that the Iraqi parliament will be taking the month of August off.
It looks like they may, yeah, just like the U.S. Congress is.
Have you tried to talk them out of that?
You know, it's 130 degrees in Baghdad in August. I'll pass on your recommendation.
A reporter pointed out it'll be 130 degrees for the U.S. troops as well. But the fact remains that with 8 weeks to go until a second critically important report measuring the Iraqis' ability to make progress they've yet to demonstrate, their parliament will be on vacation for 4 of them. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, the White House.
Meanwhile, the Pentagon released surveillance video today showing dozens of rocket launchers in eastern Baghdad that were aimed at U.S. bases in the region. According to the military, the rockets were manufactured in Iran. 12 of them had already been fired at the American bases, but a U.S. Apache helicopter took out the others before they could be used against Americans. Meanwhile, the U.S. Senate wants to raise the price on Osama bin Laden's head. It voted today to double the bounty for the fugitive from $25 million to $50 million. The bill would also require the administration to give Congress a progress report on the hunt for al-Qaeda leaders every 90 days. That Senate vote came just days after a U.S. intelligence report that created anxiety across America. It said al-Qaeda has regrouped and may be preparing new strikes against the United States. Our justice correspondent Bob Orr is in Washington. Bob, this report is being taken very seriously, isn't it?
Katie, no doubt about that. In fact, the FBI right now is taking a fresh look at old cases, re-interviewing suspects and sources, searching for any clue at all that terrorists are planning some kind of summer strike against the U.S. Now, to this point, no plot has surfaced, but there are multiple warning signs on multiple fronts. The reemergence of al-Qaeda in a safe haven in Pakistan is driving the fear. Despite a 6-year war on terror, al-Qaeda is having renewed success in raising money and recruiting jihadists. And numerous raw intelligence tips say the terror organization has reestablished a semblance of command and control with the ability to dispatch operatives.
Well, they've been able to do it in the past as far as moving people into Europe, into the UK. I think the intelligence services have good intelligence that shows that al-Qaeda has been able to move those operatives.
U.S. officials say they can't prove or disprove reports that a new al-Qaeda cell is in the U.S. or on its way. That information from one source in Afghanistan, described as suspect, has not been corroborated. But there are other troubling signs that something bad is brewing. The recent attacks on London and Glasgow, a deadly string of bombings in northern Africa, and a relentless propaganda campaign from al-Qaeda, which officials fear represents a renewed confidence.
All of this causes me in general to look at the summer as a time when we have somewhat more risk and we need to be very vigilant.
Al-Qaeda has a history of striking in summer months. The attack on America was launched in September. The British train bombings happened in July. And it was just last August when authorities uncovered a plot to blow up U.S.-bound airplanes.
There has been no letdown in al-Qaeda's determination to carry out an attack against the United States. We have slowed them, we have hurt them, we have damaged them, but we have not eliminated them.
But U.S. officials say so far they've not connected any new dots. They say there is no evidence of an imminent attack, though they worry about what they don't know. Katie?
Bob, are U.S. officials getting any clues as to what might happen in this country from the investigations going on in London or Glasgow?
Well, they're looking, Katie. They tell us there's been a great surge in the number of reports that they've been forced to chase after London. They're running down all those leads. They're looking at cell phone records, looking for any connections between those terror suspects and people here. So far, they haven't found them, but they're still looking. Katie?
All right, Bob, we're in Washington. Bob, thank you. Now to Money Matters. Wall Street ends the week in record territory, the Dow moving ever closer to the 14,000 mark. The blue chips gained another 45 points today and closed above 13,900 for the first time ever. That's in spite of a report showing consumers cutting back on their spending, the driving force of the U.S. economy. Here's Anthony Mason.
Shoppers went into a swoon in June. Retail sales took their biggest drop in nearly 2 years as consumers grew
more cautious about what I purchase.
I just don't buy a lot of extra luxuries that I probably would have in the past.
It looks pretty scary to me when I look at the numbers company by company.
Retail analyst Howard Davidowitz says many of the biggest chains are feeling the pain. Macy's, The Gap, Kohl's, and Taylor, JCPenney all slumped badly in June.
So when you go down the list, you see lots of negative comp store sales. We have soft retail sales in America because the consumer is weak.
Weaker because of higher prices at the pump and at the supermarket.
A lot of my discretionary income is now going towards gasoline and extra cost in food.
But the slumping housing market may be the biggest weight on shoppers' minds. They see the value of their homes, their biggest investment, falling. And economist Stuart Hoffman says we haven't hit bottom yet.
I think home sales and home building, and particularly home prices, have further to fall.
New home sales, according to one forecast, will plummet more than 17% this year.
So the housing market drag on the economy is going to be with us. But I don't think the housing market is a whirlpool that's going to drag down the rest of the economy with it.
That's because the global economy just keeps booming, and that's helping keep the job market here strong. And that's why, despite those bad retail sales numbers, the stock market ended the week at another all-time high. Anthony Mason, CBS News, on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
In other news tonight, America has begun paying final respects to Lady Bird Johnson. Mourners filed past her casket today at the LBJ Library in Austin, Texas. Among them, Jim Harden, the longtime head of Mrs. Johnson's Secret Service detail.
22 years of just happiness, sharing the world with her, and she was, I can say, she was probably the most gracious, kind, and considerate person that I've ever known.
Nearly 50 current and former agents will be in Austin this weekend to honor the former First Lady. There will be a private funeral tomorrow. Lady Bird Johnson will be buried Sunday at the LBJ Ranch. There is much more CBS News ahead. Later in the broadcast, why more teens are saying no to sex. But up next, stealing home. CBS News investigates a scam that's leaving victims without a place to live. If you're struggling to make your mortgage payment this month, you've got plenty of company. According to a new report, there have been more than 925,000 foreclosures so far this year. That's up 56% from last year. Meanwhile, fear of foreclosure is making homeowners easy prey for scam artists, exposed tonight by our chief investigative correspondent, Armin Katayan.
Annie Stevens, a 70-year-old grandmother, has lived in her Atlanta home for 40 years.
I just don't feel like I belong anyplace else.
But after suffering a stroke, she found herself unable to work, unable to pay her bills.
Once you get behind, it's hard to catch up, hard.
Within days of foreclosure, Annie was overwhelmed with ads promising instant relief, an easy way out. It proved anything but. She says a con artist claiming he'd help refinance her home instead stole it, then stripped away tens of thousands of dollars in equity.
They're just no good scamming vultures.
It's known as foreclosure rescue, but a CBS News investigation has uncovered an unending trail of victims across the country. As the number of foreclosure filings soars to record levels, up nearly 90% from this time last year, so does mortgage fraud. The FBI currently has more than 1,100 cases pending, about 3 times more than in 2003.
We helped stop 250 foreclosures and have refinanced thousands of homes.
Sweet 100. Sources say the Metropolitan Money Store in Maryland was one of them.
This place is shut down.
A major class action lawsuit now charges the Metropolitan Money Store of being the single largest mortgage scam in Maryland history, an elaborate scheme to dupe more than 400 homeowners of millions of dollars in lost equity. State investigators describe the scheme as a classic come-on. A desperate homeowner buried in debt and facing foreclosure, convinced to transfer the deed of their home to a third-party investor with the promise of getting it back. Instead, the company sucks the equity out of the house, leaving the original owner in desperate straits. This group says they were victims of the Maryland scheme.
It's an empty feeling. You know, it's like the bottom. It feels like the bottomless pit.
Do you feel like you were cheated out of your home?
Oh, absolutely.
Big time.
Absolutely. Out of our home and more. Yes.
Because they didn't just take your home.
Right.
They took the equity in your home.
They took the equity and actually made creditworthiness even worse than it was before.
I think this is one of the most outrageous scams in the United States at this time.
Elizabeth Renoward of the National Consumer Law Center says such shady deals are skyrocketing as the mortgage market implodes.
The financial distress is the weakness that they exploit. Because people are so concerned about losing their homes, they'll do almost anything to save them.
Only 7 states specifically regulate foreclosure rescues. Only one, Massachusetts, makes it illegal. In Maryland, we wanted to talk with the people allegedly involved in the scheme. Mr. and Mrs. Fordham. Despite repeated attempts, we were unable to reach Joy Jackson or her husband, Kurt Fordham. The only trace of them we could find were these photos of their $800,000 wedding last year, an over-the-top Hollywood-style affair where they gave away cash, a Porsche, and a final insult to folks like this.
She gave away a house.
Yes. Right.
Could have been one of your houses.
Exactly. That was our wedding. We didn't even get invited.
Armin Katayan, CBS News, Lanham, Maryland.
A century-old textile mill in South Carolina went up in flames today. The Anderson mill was leveled as smoke billowed into the sky, and the fire raged over an area of about 3 city blocks. There were no injuries, and officials said there were no hazardous materials in the building. Still ahead, are teenagers these days getting smarter about sex? What a new report says when we come back. Time now for some frank talk about teenagers and sex, and there's some good news for a change. A study out today suggests teens these days are a lot smarter about sex. Here's Randall Pinkston.
Like no other generation, America's teens are being inundated with graphic sexual images on the web, in movies, on TV.
That was sex.
But a new federal study says teens are ignoring the hype and, in fact, are having less sex.
The drop is really substantial. We've seen a decline among whites, among blacks, among Hispanics, among older teens, among younger teens.
The federal interagency report shows a drop in sexual activity among teens from 54% in 1991 to 47% in 2005. For those who do have sex, more male teens are using condoms.
They get it from school, they get it from the media, they're getting it from their peers. It's like all sources kind of coming together and saying, use condoms.
This trend is most striking for African Americans. In the 15 to 17 age group, the report shows a 60% drop in the birth rate. For white teens, it declined by half. The Hispanic teen birth rate declined by a third. There's no single reason for the reduction.
Molly had lots of questions about what was happening to her.
But a major factor is the progress made in American sex education over the decades, from awkward
and the start of a real waistline and hips.
They started having oral sex because they say it's not really sex,
to modern, frank discussions about sexuality. This program, sponsored by the YMCA, stresses personal responsibility and self-respect from an early age.
We're teaching teens to think ahead and what are the small steps that affect my big goal later on. And so giving them that is really, really powerful because they make decisions that affect the rest of their lives.
While there are many programs that reduce teen pregnancy, a government-funded study shows that programs that preach abstinence only don't make a difference. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.
A couple of notes from Great Britain tonight. Police are testing out a new crime-fighting tool there. Some call it Bobby Cam. 2,000 officers will be given small video cameras to wear around their heads. They'll capture images of crime victims and witnesses, and that will help judges and juries view crime scenes through the eyes of the officer at the scene. And a major court decision involving headgear of another kind. Beginning next year, civil and family court judges in Britain will no longer wear wigs, a tradition that dates back to the 17th century. This will save the government many thousands of dollars since judges will no longer get a wig allowance. Coming up next, a prison inmate passing the time with needlepoint you'd expect from your grandma. Believe it or not, it's tonight's Assignment America. Talk about a stitch in time. This is the story of a man who learned to stitch while he was doing time. Armed only with an embroidery needle, an ex-con who spent almost 8 years in a state penitentiary is now turning out his own unique works of art. And Steve Hartman has his story in tonight's Assignment America.
You've got to be comfortable with your manhood to admit what 53-year-old Ray Matterson is about to tell you. That after finishing all his macho weekend chores, this divorced father of 3 from Troy, New York, loves nothing more than to be able to go inside, settle into the couch, and embroider.
Doesn't get any better than that. I never get bored with it.
He's been doing it for 20 years. And if you think he looks like an unlikely embroiderer now, wait till you see what he looked like when he started. Yes, that's the very same Ray Matterson, former inmate at the Connecticut State Penitentiary. He came here for robbery, he says, to feed his coke habit.
When you're a practicing addict, you can justify just about anything you do.
He spent nearly 8 years in prison, where to pass the time, one day he took some thread from a sock, borrowed a needle from the guard, made a hoop out of a Rubbermaid container, and ripped up a pair of boxers to embroider onto.
You had to get teased about it. I did get teased. Guy doesn't say to you in the holding tank, when you get to the joint, you get yourself an embroidery hoop. It'll earn their respect.
Undaunted, he kept at it day and night and still continues now 13 years after his release. His work is highly prized and on display now at a gallery at UC Davis near Sacramento. Each piece is about the size of a credit card, and although not exactly grandma-friendly, you can't help but appreciate the talent and detail. In prison, you could buy one of these for a carton of cigarettes. Now they go for up to $4 grand. It easily pays the rent. But Ray says this has never been about money.
Skills with how to deal with life, like gaining patience, like being able to start a project and finish it, which is really important in the real world.
That's why Ray is now trying to start embroidery programs in prisons across the country. To raise money for launching the idea, he plans to sell his latest masterpiece, a one-of-a-kind work of art that he hopes will go for more than any other piece he's ever done. What do you think? Will it?
Ray has been working on that all week, and now he just has to put the CBS logo right on the hat there. And ideally, Katie, he'd like to get one of your socks to finish it off.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes me a tad nervous, but I'll do it.
You'll do it? Okay.
And he's so talented.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just like
the work
you.
is,
or at least you can tell it's a woman, right?
Yeah, definitely. Why the baseball cap, I'm not
so
sure.
So we can put the logo on there.
He thinks I'm sporty, right?
No, it's for the logo.
Oh, that was so nice.
And he'll appreciate the sock.
Yeah, okay. I'll bring it to you on Monday.
Great.
Meanwhile, tell us about our story for next Friday.
Okay. Next week, we have another story that didn't win the vote, but I really like, so I'm going to do it anyway. He's 5 years old, lost one eye to cancer, and yet still plays golf like a tiger. Wait till you meet little Kyle LaGrosso. Meanwhile, if you have a story to suggest, please tell me about it by clicking on the Assignment America icon at cbsnews.com. And of course, don't forget to tune in for my next story next Friday night.
Tonight's Assignment America segment is sponsored by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
That's the CBS Evening News this Friday the 13th. I'm Katie Couric in New York. Thanks for watching this week. I'll see you again on Monday. Until then, good night and good luck.